Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is taking this letter here and inserting. We're going to take these corks over here from wine bottles and stuff, and then we're going to take these LED lights. These are fairy lights. We're going to put them together and make something cool with this letter here. So basically what we have for the letter is just a bent piece of metal. So it starts off with the flat, laser cut it out, and then they bend this metal all the way around it. It's sheet metal, real thin. And then what I want to do is light it up and then put the corks in here, so that way the light shines through the corks. And I ended up buying some used ones, so that way they're not brand new when they go in there. And you could see the different color ends from the stained wine, or from the wine that stained these corks, and they have different sayings on them, so that'd be pretty cool. So the idea here is put these lights behind it so they shine through the corks, and I think that would give it a cool effect. Basically I don't want to fill this whole thing up with corks, only because I want to have the person that I give this to be able to add their own stuff to it. So as they drink a bottle of wine, you know, over the years, they could insert their corks on their own all the way around. So I think that would be pretty cool. So that way it's not completely done. They have some room to design it the way they want with whatever bottles of wine that they drink. So let's get it started. One of the things I want to mention is it does have a hanger in the back, so you could hang it on the wall. And I did pre-drill this hole on the back side of it. So I drilled a hole. It doesn't matter what size it is, just so you could fit these fairy lights in it, so when you fish it through. And I also cut a piece of heat shrink that I'm going to use as a grommet. So I'm going to put that in there so that way it doesn't cut this wire over time, so it doesn't put a strain on it as the wire hangs out. And then I got a hot glue gun, and that's what we're going to use to adhere everything together. And so let's get this project started and run through it. Hopefully it's real fast and simple, straightforward. It's supposed to be an easy DIY, and let's get to it. So before you start, the first thing you want to do is make sure your fairy lights work, because it would be a bummer to put everything together and your fairy lights do not turn on, or your LEDs, whatever you decide to use. The fairy lights that I have come with this remote, and they come with the little inline remote actual device. Let me see if I can show you. So they come with this piece. So this piece right here is basically an antenna. It's an LED controller, so that way you could use your remote and turn these on and off, and then also change the settings, your speed settings and all that, brightness and everything. This came as a kit. I believe I paid like $10 for this whole thing with the remote, so they're not that expensive. You could find them anywhere, Amazon, eBay, whoever's the cheapest, buy it. If they ever break, you could always replace these. They're on a quick disconnect, so nothing too big. You could also plug them in directly into a 12-volt power source that converts 110 to 12 volts, and then they could light up directly. So you just plug that in. It would have the same end as this. So as you can see, this is the end of the plug, and I fished it through. I fished it this way, so that way I pulled this all the way through, only so that way I could make this hole smaller, because if you decide to push this through there, you're gonna have to make sure you drill that hole out a lot bigger. So once that gets drilled out and everything, you're going to take this heat shrink and slide it over in that area of the hole and then push it through. So let me do that and then I'll show you what to do next. So what you're going to want to do is melt the heat shrink. So you take your lighter and basically just heat it up a little bit. Don't get it too hot, so that way you don't burn your wires or crack the LEDs with the heat. So once you light it up, then you could slide it in into the area that you want it. This one already had heat shrink on it, as you could tell right here, but I wanted to do a double layer only so that way it doesn't cut through it. Okay, so now what we want to do is use the glue gun to hold it, slide it through so that way we could see part of the black heat shrink stick out. As you can see, take your glue gun and just put glue all the way around it, and we want to keep it in place for a little bit so it dries. The glue, I got mine really hot, so you want to make sure that you allow it to sit for a little bit before moving it too much. Okay, so as you can see, I caked it in there. It's all it is hot glue, so don't worry about it. You could be more generous if you like, or you could be more frugal with your hot glue. It doesn't matter, just as long as they don't pull it out whenever they unplug it. And I also put hot glue on the back side of it, just a little bit. You're not going to see the inside, so if you feel like it's a little too much, don't worry about it, because they're not going to see the inside. This is where you start adding your corks and stuff into it. So we're going to start adding the corks and also positioning the light around before we add the corks, so that way we could basically hot glue the lights in place, so that way nothing pops out and we could use up all the lighting. So let me route that through real quick. So after you're done with it, this is what it's going to look like. Looking for that raw industrial look, so I didn't make it too uniform, only because I think the raw industrial look would look better. So I wove it all the way around the outline perimeter. I went around again and again, and then I went around this. You could change your modes, so that way you could have them go on and off depending on what LEDs you chose. You could also basically turn it on solid and then dim it if you want, if you're using it as a night light. Another thing to remember is it doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to be behind the corks anyway. You may see a few copper lines here and there, but for the most part it's going to all disappear. So as you can see, all the logos of each cork are showing, so make sure you kind of assemble it with that in mind, so that way you could actually see what each cork or wine bottle this came from. And I think it looks pretty cool with all the different mixed matched wine bottles, their corks and where they came from. Some of them are more expensive than others, so it's pretty cool to get a variety.